Hi, this is Roberto for Sigitudes, and this is day 2 in our hair particles in Blender tutorial. Today we'll start shading our hair, and later we'll add a basic lining rig. We'll do some compositing, and finally we'll enable sub-body for our particle system so we can animate it. Let's start with it. Okay, let's start shading our hair. First of all, I already added a material to it. I'm just renaming it and changing a bit the base diffuse color. I'm gonna go for a brown color in there. And now I just went back to the particle buttons and selected call right of the material slot where you select which material number you want the hair particle to use. And okay, let's see. Now I'm going to start using textures for changing and controlling the color of the hair. So let's change the preview of the material to particles, and I'm going to add another buttons panel right to the 3D view so we can see the material result and our textures at the same time. So add a first blend texture, and this one we're going to use it to control the opacity of the strand. So I'm just renaming it to alpha. And now we have to map our texture, and this time we're going to select the strand option, which is on the right of the arc option, and we're going to select alpha and deselect color. Also, I'm going to use negative in there. And we also have to activate C transparency and drop the alpha slider to the bottom. You can leave it at 0, I'll change it later. And now in the color option of our texture, we activate our color ramp, and we make both ends to have alpha 0 and be black. And then we add 2 new markers and set them to white to control the part of our strand which will be visible. I'm gonna leave it like that for now. I'm making the bottom buttons panel bigger so you can see better the result. There I'm just deactivating C transparency to make it clear, and just adjust it to until it looks like you want. Okay, let's do a quick render to view the result. It's looking really ugly still, but we'll work on making it look a bit better. I'm gonna change the camera position a bit so we can get a better perspective on our hair. To do so, you can put the 3D view any way you want and just press Ctrl 0 to put it in there. Also, as I activated transparent shadows in our head, so it receives transparent shadows. And there I just added a second blend texture, and this one will use it to control the color of the hair. So as we did with the first one, go to the map input option and select strand, and this time we'll select control color and specularity color. I like to leave the marker on the left transparent, and just add a few more, a couple more, to select different colors and make a kind of gradient to control it. Therefore, the first one, select a darker color for the root of the hair and go down with the opacity. Then another one in the middle of our gradient, which will be the main color for our hair. Going to light yellow, and the right, the marker on the right will control the color of the tip of the hair. Also change the opacity of all of them so they kind of blend with your main diffuse. And let's see how it looks now. You can see there's already a bit more variation on the color of the hair, whereas before it was just a plain color and it looked worse. And once you started with this, it's just a matter of playing with the colors and selecting the ones that work as you like. I'm just making it a bit brighter, everything. It looked a bit dark. Now it looked somewhat better. I'm still not happy with it. Alright, I skipped ahead a bit, so there weren't so many changes that would be useless to see. And let's change another option. There is a hidden drop window in there called strand in the links material panel, which brings up a new menu specific for the hair. And there are several options to control the way our hair looks in there. Basically, you want to activate the use of Blender units, and if you click away from the panel, you will see that the hair now looks really big, and it will take a lot of time to render. Right now, the renders were really quick, and as you can see, this is looking horrible, and it's taking forever to render. And now there are a few other options we can change so it doesn't happen like this. You can control the beginning and the end of the strand, how thick they look. I usually select really slow values, and also there's an option in there called width fade, which will somewhat fade the beginning and the end of our hair, and also will make it look a bit more random. And also you can see there the front of the head doesn't look that right. I should have added a lot of extra particles in there, but I guess it's alright for now. There, I'm still not happy with the color of the hair, so I'm going to change the color of the tips a bit, but it's just a matter of keep tweaking it. Okay, so let's move on to the lighting in the scene. I'm going to add a few lights, just the basic one and a couple more. And this lamp, I'm going to change it to a spot lamp, and we're going to use buffered shadows, so our renders will still be quick. And there I just added a track constraint to the light, so no matter where you put it in the scene, it will point to the head. And there I'm just activating the shadows option and lowering a bit the strength. And let's put it in the back. And this will be our key light. There I'm just duplicating it and put it opposite to the first one and lowering a lot more the value, so this will be somewhat of a rim light, lining the profile of the head. And lastly, I just added an Emi light and selected the specular option and chosen a kind of blue color, so it will be our skylight, somewhat faking the color of the sky. There I'm just changing the lens degree of the camera. I'm not quite happy with how the badly done composition is looking. I want to focus just on the head, on the hair. Okay, let's have a look at how our hair is looking now with the new lining. Not quite what I want, starting to look different. Also, you can see all the shadows from the hair on the head, and it also helps uh, darkening the root of the hair, so it looks a bit more natural. Alright, I skipped ahead again because I kept on changing the values. There I'm showing you our color texture or how it looks right now. And next we're going to add a texture for our sky. So go to texture buttons and add a new world button, texture, and there I'm going to load an angular map, hit Ctrl before clicking load so you can preview the image. And I just downloaded this from a thread at Blender Artist. And now we need to map this texture in the world buttons. So go there and texture input, select Ang map, which is short for Angular map. And from the map 2 panel, select the second one, which is horizon. And in the preview panel, select real. The good thing about using this kind of map is that it gives you a complete sky and an earth for your scene. So if you start rotating your camera, you will have sky anywhere you look. I just activated also ambient occlusion, and in this test render you can see we already have a background. Now if you deselect the real option, it will look a bit different in here, but the main difference will be if you start rotating things around. So I'm going to select everything and move it in the scene, and this won't make that much of a difference for now, so let's see how it looks. And you can see there's not enough difference. So let's just rotate it around so we can get another background for our renders. I just want the sky to be visible. Right there you can already see that we have a different part of our sky in view. And I'm going to rotate it again. Just change the angle so the camera looks directly to the sky, and that's all we have in the background. Somewhat like this. Now we got rid of the earth, so we can just rotate around the z-axis and get the portion of the sky that looks better. There's a bit of earth showing in there. So just change the direction again. And there's alright for now. So next what we're going to do is add a few nodes. So first of all, in the render buttons, select do composite, and I'm going to change this view to the node editor and select use nodes and backdrop, so we can have the result of our composite in there. So this is how the node editor looks when you start using it. You have a render layer node and a composite node linked in between them, and You can move the nodes around just clicking on them or hitting G while they're selected. And just as we have in the 3D view, you can hit the spacebar and the menu will appear with different options for adding new nodes, like this input and output nodes. There's a few for changing the color, a lot for converting values and different stuff. But we're going to focus in a few of them. First of all, I'm going to add a viewer. If you have the backdrop option in there activated, you will see the result as it is happening right now. And also, since we haven't done anything yet, it will show right now the result of the render layer. And first off, we're going to add the focus node. This will allow us to fake the depth of field of a physical camera. So we'll start by deactivating the nosy buffer and preview options. We're not going to use them. And for this node to work, we need to get the C input from our scene, and we need something else, something more before we can do that. So let's go back to our 3D scene, and I'm just snapping the cursor there to the head and add an empty. Next, you just have to position the empty in the scene wherever you want the camera to focus. I'm just leaving it there in the hair, roughly in the center of the camera view. I'm going to rename it to DOF. And with this done, just go to your camera and within the depth of field object option, type the name of the empty. So that's about it for this step. Just go back to the node editor and hook the C option from the render layer into the socket in the focus node. There I'm just showing you that if you control click a node, it will automatically link the viewer to it. This is quite handy when you want to compare results. So let's do a render so we get the C input. And let's change some of the values of the focus node. First off is the f-stop. We can also change the max blur. I'm going to take it to 2. And there's a third option, or we'll talk later. So first, the f-stop value, if you leave it by default, which is 128, the focus will be infinite, so there will be no blurring, and the closer you get to 0, the more the bigger the blurred area will be. So I just change it to a really low value and set the max blur to a bigger quantity, so you can see the sky gets blurred a lot, whereas the hair remains focused. Also, you have to keep in mind that very low values will usually mean that the object you're focusing in is really small, so you may want to use a bigger value uh, most of the time. And there I just changed the threshold value, which determines how much the background bleeds into the foreground. And this is easy to spot in here because there's a lot of difference between the background and our main object, and it helps sometimes to get rid of some artifacts. There I'm using the default 1 value in here. I like how it looks, even though there's some of those artifacts. And we're done with the defocus node. Now I've just added a blur node, and we're going to change it to fog low. I like how it looks, so let's change the threshold value, and we're going to use this to give some more brightness to our image, which will make us need lower values for our lights. But I like how this brings together the whole image. You can see there's some overexposed zones in the image. I'm just trying their different values, so you can change the size. There's not much. The minimum is 6, and I guess not sure right now, but the maximum I think is 9. Let's leave it somewhere in between. And let's change the intensity of our lights a bit, make them less bright, and render again. Alright, I forgot to hook the glare node to our composite, but it's alright. Now I just added a lens distortion node, and this time I remembered to hook it to the composite. But first off, let's change the glare value again so it updates and we can see how it looks. Now there's not overexposed parts in the hair, and we have two different values to change in the lens distortion. The first one distorts. Also, you may want to select fit so there's no black areas in there. And the other value is dispersion, and if you use this, besides distorting the image, it will add a chromatic aberration to a render, which is really easy to spot if you use a very big value like I did in here. I kind of like to use it, even though it's a byproduct of using a bad lens, which is not that desirable. So I'm not gonna use it now, but I kinda like the result of it. And usually I use this node setup. These are 3 nodes that I use most of the time, but just for the sake of the tutorial we'll add another one. Under the color nodes there's the RGB curves one, and this is really handy when you want to finer control over color. You can change all the values or just the values from any of the three basic colors in there. I'm changing the red curve right now, and next is the green one, and last is the blue one. It may seem random right now, but I'm trying to fake cross processing, which is a photographic way of developing film, but it's just so you can see it. Basically, you can click anywhere on the curve and drag to change the values. And that's it for the nodes. There's a lot more options and combinations you can create really cool effects with the nodes, which open a great world of opportunities. And it's really cool that Blender has this compositor inside it, because thanks to this you won't need another application to post-process your render once you're done, and it really speeds the workflow. So this is it for the nodes. Let's just add physics options to our head and make it move.